Hello, wonderful SFS people. It is great to see your faces on this Wednesday evening. Is that still? Yeah, it is. Okay, if you have not already, please go to Slido, sli.eo for attendance. The code is 244921. Not the right lighting for me. That's gonna turn everything off. Okay, wonderful. We're gonna leave it like that. So please go to Slido and submit your attendance. Reminder, please put your name and your committee. Sometimes you guys do show up as anonymous people and you only put your committee, so we have no idea who you are. So please do that. Same thing for the people on Zoom. No, Jerry. The code is right here. It's 244921. And I'll give you like 30 more seconds. Is it switching? Ooh, okay, cool. Good to know. Let me switch it back to this. Okay, so for today's meeting, we're going to be doing some announcements about organizations and events coming up. Also, our guest speaker is from WICS, which is Women in Information and Computer Science. We work together on a little project for you all, and then that will conclude our meeting. So just a reminder, the fall career days are still happening. The kind of environmental related jobs and internships and companies that will be here via Zoom will be tomorrow from 1 to 4 p.m. So again, that is on Zoom. So you need to go to Handshake to register, and I believe you should be able to find a Zoom link on there. And then from there, I believe you just kind of hop in from room to room, depending on whatever employer you're interested in. I cannot remember a lot of them. There's like the Environmental Defense Fund, the Coral Restoration Foundation, I think is what it's called. I know the Bureau of Land Management will be there. So some pretty cool employers. If you are a senior or just looking for an internship or something for your major, this would be a great way to find something there. Does someone have a question? Okay. So yeah, I did send this in the general meeting recap on Monday too. So if you want a direct link, you should be able to find it there or go to career.arizona.edu/fall fair, and that is tomorrow. And as a reminder, if you need a resume checkup or building your resume, you can contact our advisor, Pete Corrigan, who came to speak general meeting ago. And then the Office of Sustainability has shared a survey with us. This is the first survey for their sustainability and climate action plan. It takes 10 to 20 minutes. And the main part is that it's not all inclusive. It is not representative of what a complete sustainability and climate action plan should look like, but it's one aspect of it. And it's just like the first startup survey just to gain some interest. So if you're interested in giving your input, go ahead and fill this out. We will have the link sent out in the general meeting recap. The survey, as I mentioned, is not all inclusive. It only focuses on greenhouse gas emissions, and there will be more surveys on water, social justice, and education to come. And those are due by October 3rd. So for marketing, if you were here last year as part of SFS, we do have a photo circle. So you can go onto your phone. I don't know if it's on your laptop too, if you have a Mac, but if you go onto your phone, you should be able to search up photo circle. And then if you scan this QR code, you can join our Students for Sustainability circle. And then you'll be able to upload pictures and kind of see all the pictures from, or that have already been uploaded. So that's a lot of fun. Our marketing team, like Mackenzie and Emily, will probably use some of your photos for some things in the future. And it's also just really fun to see what y'all are up to, especially if they're more committee related rather than general program wide. So yeah, just scan that QR code, upload your pictures. Please keep them appropriate.
I feel like I shouldn't have to say that, but I'm going to say it anyways. Please keep it appropriate. And
By the way, for anyone that's not familiar with Photo Circle, it's kind of just like a shared album with like all the pictures that you've taken related to like an event or something. And then also like if you have Google Photos, it's kind of just like a collaborative little album right there. So yeah, it's not like Instagram or anything, like it's not like photo sharing in that sense, but it's photo sharing in the sense that like you want to share pictures that you took at a certain event or in SFS in general.
And then we have polls for you guys. So we have 2 questions. I am not as well versed in this, so give me 1 second, I apologize. But our first question is, how do you do this? Play? There you go. If you're on Slido and you have the code in, you should be able to see this poll, hopefully. If someone can confirm for me, that'd be wonderful.
Okay, cool.
Wonderful. So we have 2 questions for you guys. We want to have some kind of way for all of the committees to not collaborate, but interact with each other outside of like committee collaborations, and just kind of like a fun way, again, to interact between you all. So please vote on whether or not you would like to have a Discord or a GroupMe for Students for Sustainability. And if you don't want one, I'm sorry. But the code is still the same. It's 244921. And I will leave it open for another, I don't know, 30 seconds. Or whenever it stops moving. Most people are looking up. So it looks like GroupMe. That's exciting. Sorry, energy. Yeah, so we will probably have, there we go, how pretty. We will probably have a GroupMe sometime. I don't think that will be in this week's general meeting recap because we do aim to get that out tomorrow, so you guys can fill out the climate action solutions survey, I think is what it's called. But we will send that out next week or whenever it comes up. And then the other Slido. Another question we have is that when we had originally started planning for sustainability this semester, there were so many people that we did not fit into a collaborative learning space, which is what we normally have for our meetings. So we wanted to ask you guys, since the program has kind of, I'm not sure what the right word is here, but a lot of people often leave just because, you know, they don't have the time commitment for that, and our group is significantly smaller. So we do fit in a collaborative learning space, I believe. So we wanted to ask you guys if you would like to stay in this room, Parable 150, more lecture style, or change to a collaborative learning space, and that space would be TDA. It's so fun watching it move.
No, it's fine.
Oh, more people here. What is here? It's 42. Yes, Chelsea, 42. Wonderful. How do I get rid of this again? LOL.
Okay.
Alrighty, I'm going to call it because the numbers have not moved in a hot minute. So we'll be looking into a collaborative learning space. I'm not sure, we probably won't have that by next week, but keep your eyes peeled for a general meeting recap with new information whenever that comes. And then we have a short announcement from Akash, who is the president of VeggieCast. He's part of VeggieCast, and he has an announcement for us.
Hi, so I'm sure half of you have seen this thing already, not just as student health, but I'll still proceed. So I'll begin with 3 questions. Who here thinks that there should be more plant-based options on campus? Okay, wow. Second question was going to be who thinks there should be more plant-based options for other people. If, you didn't answer the first question, but who here thinks that there should be cheap, affordable food options to, provide food insecurity? Okay, cool. So if you raise your hand to any of that, then I think you should sign this petition. So basically, VeggieCats is running a plant-based campaign. The main goal of the campaign is to have more plant-based options on campus. It has been divided into 3 different parts. So there's survey, which is surveying existing plant-based options. The second part is signature, which is why I'm here, taking signatures from faculty and students. And the third part is letter, which is, we'll write a letter delineating all the reasons why the university should add plant-based options. So if you've already signed this thing, then I would say share this with as many friends and faculty as possible, if any of them are if you're close with any of them. If you want to get more involved, we have a Discord. I made a whole slide thing, which is going to be included at the email thing, which you guys send at the end. Okay, and you can find the Discord QR code over there. The Discord is also like a fun place to hang out. We have a bunch of people from SFS Food and Health, and they can tell you more about that. Yeah, I was hoping this would go on longer, but if you have any questions, I'm in the back right over there. I'm semi-friendly, so feel free to approach. Oh yeah, the last thing. We are working with, for this one, we are actually working with the Humane Society of the US. So if the campaign is successful, the transition that will be aided by them because they have access to nutritionists, dietitians, like a whole recipe database and all that stuff. So yeah, let's make this happen.
So yeah, it'll be in the recap or you can finish filling it out right now if you're currently doing that. And yes, it is linked in our bio on Instagram. So at UASFS, if you have not followed, drop a follow right there. And then go fill out that petition in our bio. So yeah, today, like Chelsea said earlier, we're going to be hearing from WICS, which stands for Women in Information and Computer Science. It's kind of like a joint presentation, but I will let Simran introduce herself and I'll pull up the slides.
All right. Hey everyone, I'm Simran. I'm a junior here at U of A, and I'm majoring in MIS and minoring in computer science. And so I'm an officer for WICS, and we are basically just a student-run club dedicated to technology. We primarily support women and allies, but we welcome everyone. And each meeting, we try to focus on a different topic in technology. One really cool thing we're doing this year is our website project, where we're coding up a website from scratch. So you get to learn some really cool skills by being a part of WICS. And here, I'll move to the next slide. Yeah, so this is our mission, which I talked about. You don't need to be a CS major, engineering major, and you don't need to have like a computer science background to be a part of WICS. We're open to everyone. And then here is our link tree, and it has access to like our website and our Discord where we post our meeting information. But yeah, we're really excited to be partnering with you guys on today's meeting. And if you are interested in WICS, you can always come up to me after, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you have.
This presentation is on tech waste. So what is e-waste? Has anyone heard of that before? Show of hands. Okay, so maybe like half. For those of you who don't know, e-waste just stands for electronic waste, and it refers to any electronics or electrical equipment that's been thrown out without the intention of being reused. So it includes almost anything from electrical components to power and battery supplies and like electronics. So there are 6 categories for e-waste. There's temperature exchange equipment like your refrigerators, screens like TVs and monitors, lamps, small equipment like microwaves, toasters, your calculator, large equipment, which includes like dishwashers, stoves, TV panels, then small IT equipment like cell phones, GPS, routers.
So in terms of the effects of e-waste, there's two statistics that really stood out. So in 2019, 53.6 million metric tons of e-waste were generated, and only 17.4% of that 53.6 million was properly recycled. So it is an alarming statistic, especially because, I mean, we're really only seeing growth with the use of technology and devices. So this number will probably be growing. And of that, so the rest of the 17.4, that was all like illegally dumped or into low income and middle income countries and just improperly recycled. So it is an alarming statistic, but I will say on the bright side that 17.4% that was properly recycled prevented as much as 15 million tons of carbon dioxide from being released into the environment. So this is definitely a big number. And so we need to definitely focus on like properly recycling our e-waste. And yeah, so in terms of the effects of e-waste, I would say there's two main effects. There's health risks and then there's the environmental risks. So with the health risks, so with improper disposal of e-waste and improper recycling, a lot of low income and middle income countries end up doing that recycling. And going through those electronic components can lead to exposure to like toxic materials and contaminants. So it poses a health risk to people. And there's also an environmental risk, as we kind of talked about in the last slide. But I also wanted to bring up the cloud. Does anyone know what the cloud is? It's kind of a buzzword.
Do you have your hand up?
Yeah. So basically the cloud is like any sort of software or service that runs on the internet instead of locally on your computer. So when you, like for example, Google Drive, like Google Docs is on the cloud. Like with Microsoft, if you open up a doc, you can either save it to your computer or you can save it to OneDrive. And OneDrive would be like the cloud service. So that's the cloud. And that is definitely a solution to e-waste, but there's also some things to consider when it comes to the cloud. So this is what a cloud data warehouse looks like. On the left picture is a cloud data warehouse from Google. The right one, I'm not sure, but they're all kind of similar anyways. They all kind of look like that. And so these are what data warehouses look like. Yeah, so with that, like running a data warehouse, there's some pros and cons. So pros is it does not use as much energy and there's a lower carbon footprint. So in 2010, data centers used roughly 1% of worldwide electricity. And in 2018, so the amount of internet use and traffic grew, but that number remained roughly the same. So there was also a study done by Berkeley National Laboratory that showed that moving to the cloud, by moving to the cloud, energy usage would reduce by 87%. So there's definitely some pros there. And I see a question.
Yeah, I was wondering when you comparing storing things locally on a computer versus on the cloud, when you're saying you're not using it.
So I'm saying, or not locally on the computer, but like not the cloud, I guess. So I guess that would include locally on the computer or like physical copies of things, or just like, because the thing with cloud warehouses is that it's just more efficient for businesses. So you're not using as much like time and energy on having people run things versus just storing it in the cloud. So yeah, I think that answered your question. Okay. But yeah, so it does reduce the carbon footprint and uses a lower amount of energy. But at the same time, running these data warehouses, these servers generate a lot of heat. So it requires a lot of electricity for and AC for these data centers to be kept cool. So that is like one downside. And then another downside is that it can produce a lot of e-waste, because if these servers crash or if they physically like are broken, you have to replace them, and that kind of goes to waste. Actually, so my dad works in IT, and he was telling me, like over the summer in Seattle, where his company is based out of, they had a heat wave. And so one of their data centers, the AC broke. And so everything kind of crashed. A lot of like equipment melted and stuff like that. So that's all unusable, and that leads to more e-waste. So it's definitely important to have like an optimal environment for these data centers and these data warehouses.
So, based off of that, we're going to talk a little bit about consumerism culture. So Simran kind of touched on what happens to all of the equipment that kind of goes to waste after it stops working or whatever with the cloud. So we talk a lot about consumerism and sustainability. Sorry. So yeah, we were talking about consumerism when it comes to technology. How many of you guys have some kind of MacBook or like an iPhone or even an Android? You guys all have a piece of technology that you guys carry on you, iPad, etc. And we're going to talk primarily about these like everyday pieces of technology right now. But for those, all of you guys have some sort of laptop, iPad, a phone, and you guys all use it daily. So when we're talking about consumerism culture, you know, the big companies, Apple, Android, Amazon, what are some other big tech companies? the big ones, I guess. They're always coming out with new models of technology, and because of the whole consumerism thing where everybody wants whatever's in fashion, you know, trendy, all of that, with companies coming out with new models of technology every year-ish, then we get a lot of people who are purchasing a new model of their piece of tech pretty much every year and throwing out their old pieces of technology, which are still usable. So we included a little, what do you call it, like a cycle of consumerism. I think you guys are pretty familiar with it. So we all work jobs or some kind of thing. We're in school to get a job, right? Primarily to earn money and make a living. We're using that to buy stuff and then consuming, where we're consuming lots and lots and lots of things. So that kind of also applies to other areas of sustainability as well, right? When we talk about like plastic waste, or I think a big thing when talking about sustainability and waste is like fashion. We're consuming a lot, but there's no need to consume so much, especially when things are not broken, ripped, basically not usable. So consume, we'll want more. Then as you kind of earn more money, you're gonna want something new. And a lot of things are going to waste because of that. So I'm not gonna make that point actually. Yes. At this point, does anybody have any questions too? There was a lot of tech talk in the beginning. Awesome. Okay. And then real quick on solutions.
All right, so there's some agencies and programs in place that we actually found. One of them is the Interagency Task Force on Electronic Stewardship. It's a national strategy for electronic stewardship, just applying best practices for how to manage e-waste. And then I'll get into those. Another one is the STEP program, which is Solving the E-Waste Problem Initiative. So together, these two programs and agencies have come up with the next steps of like what to do and how to manage e-waste. So one of them is to reduce adverse environmental and human impacts from proper e-waste management. As Simran discussed earlier, our e-waste is often sent to lower income and middle income countries. And then children who have small hands are being exposed to, you know, things that they shouldn't be exposed to, toxic chemicals. And this e-waste, by having small hands, are just like recruited to reach into like the small parts and breach things, which is definitely unethical, and one of the things that these programs focus on. Another one is to implement the waste hierarchy, which you see on the right side of the screen. This is to encourage avoiding purchasing e-waste or producing it, also reducing the amount of e-waste that we have, reusing our electronics before they can be discarded, recycling any parts that we can, recovering materials and using them for something else, treating anything that could be like broken or any parts that could be used for something else. And then lastly, as like a last resort, would just be disposing them instead of jumping ship like off the bat and disposing them. The other things are designing hazardous elements / incentivizing greener designs of electronics. So if anyone here is interested in like that sector, or like someone in Wix, for example, that like wants to go in a career in that, I think there should definitely be like more incentivized programs and like grants and everything for innovation, and there's a lot of potential for that. Another one is increasing domestic recycling, because as you have all heard, like not in my backyard, we tend to throw things into other places that can't advocate for themselves as much. So if we deal with the problems domestically, maybe that would help us realize the issues and also like reduce a lot of the issues that we discussed. The last one is reducing harmful exports of waste and building capacity in developing countries, because they're most responsible for the amount of e-waste. Marissa discussed the consumers and culture developing countries have the most resources, and using these resources in a way that is negatively impacting those that don't have as many resources because we just overconsume. Another point is what Marissa is going to talk about for a solution.
So like I was getting at earlier, don't throw out your current tech for the newest model. A lot of our, laptop, phones, iPads, all of that, they do last longer than a year. So if it still serves its purpose, don't throw it out. So yeah, repair the broken technology instead of replacing it. I'm going to make the connection again because I know a lot of us are not tech savvy and kind of understand like the ins and outs of that. But like with clothes, if you have a hole or like attaching a jeans or something like that, repair it, don't replace it, especially if it's pretty easy-ish to repair. It's possible. It's better to repair, and that does cut down on e-waste. And then we also wanted to throw in, I think a lot of us, or most of us will scream at the big corporations. Don't worry, I do it too. But we did want to throw out there that big tech is not necessarily a solution, with capitalism as our, what do you call it, economy. Yeah, since we operate under capitalism, big tech is not going to come up with some kind of greener way to make these products. So it's an issue, and we put this on the solution slide because we wanted to kind of throw it out there, but reminding you that it's not necessarily a solution because these companies don't make their technology easy to repair.
A lot of phone companies, like I know Apple's buyback program where they'll like buy your old phone out. What's the effect of that on all of this? Like,
Do you have any thoughts?
I have one thought before I pass it to Simon. I think it kind of encourages consumers to be like, this phone still works, but they'll give me a new one. So it kind of just encourages that cycle of like getting the newest model when you don't necessarily need it.
Yeah, I think that's what I was going to say. That's a really good question, though, and definitely something worth looking into. But yeah, I think it can help with, because Apple, I don't know how they like reuse those parts, but yeah, that's a really interesting point, actually. So.
Which actually, if we want to open it up, does anyone have something that they want to contribute to that discussion? Theory? Yeah.
I do know that the buyback program, they do recycle, like, you said they do recycle the old parts into like newer phones or newer products. So like they're trying to make their new products like more like that way. So I don't know. I think it's good, but I don't know how much it is like that extent.
Thank you.
it's not a solution directly, but we have done it in the past when they do like oil spills or with carbon, like with cars, every time the machines come out. And then it's into water, the companies actually get charged for it.
Thank you for bringing that up. Yeah, I really wanted to highlight for the big tech point, what you mentioned, which was that we're not discrediting that like big tech should not be a part of the solution or shouldn't be held accountable at all. So definitely encouraging grassroots organizing and also just holding them accountable. We can't forget that they're a part of the problem in any regard. So yeah, definitely wouldn't rely on them as a solution on their own, but they should be a part of the solution and held accountable for the problems that are created. Yeah. Yeah, the fact that like you even like thought of that probably means that other people think that as well. So I think that's definitely part of like at least a portion of people's like reasoning for not wanting to give up these devices so easily for like recycling.
I just want to like go off of that as well. That's a really good question. I know like you can factory like reset your devices, and you can also like remove the chip, which really has like stores all the information. So in terms of the actual hardware, like that is what is important to like and can be recycled. But I think like another thing that kind of becomes a problem is that like companies kind of redesign their hardware, and like I mean obviously it makes it more efficient and better, but what do we do with that old hardware, and how do we make sure it's like properly recycled is like the main question. So
Any last comments, Emma?
Honestly, but I know at least for Apple, I've been like working with them. But I know at least for Apple, they make sure if your like phone or computer or whatever still turns on, they make you like completely wipe your hard drive entirely. And like you do that yourself, so like you can confirm that it's actually done. So like they don't say that they're doing it and then give their information that you're doing it yourself. So I know that actually is in place at least for Apple, like I don't know other companies. Hope so at least.
Yeah, thank you for your input. All right. Any last comments? Yeah.
For the factory reset, actually doesn't always delete all the data. Often it's still there until you write over it with new data. So if you factory reset a device, it's not always going to be all your data.
yeah, no, that's a really good point. I think like for something like factory reset, like when we're talking about the solutions with like trying to like get as much use out of your devices as possible. Like for me, for example, like I factory reset my old laptop and gave it to my sister and she uses it for school. So like kind of like things like that are like another way to recycle. But yeah, again, like another good point. This is just like a picture from the World Health Organization. Kind of goes off the previous slide, especially with the STEP program. But just kind of talking about like, again, like eliminating child labor, making sure that they're not the ones who are having to recycle these products improperly and being exposed to those toxic contaminants, promoting community awareness, incorporating just like better policies to make sure that we have proper recycling, funding research to make sure that we're not getting exposed to toxic like metals and contaminants. And yeah.
I think that is the last slide. So we'll open it to discussion at this point. If anyone on Zoom has anything to say, just drop it in the chat. But for now, if anyone has any questions, comments, yes.
I just have a question. What kind of like materials or like chemicals are in tech that make them toxic? Like I know like battery fluid, like are you supposed to also do like waste disposal with batteries and stuff like that? But in terms of like in a computer.
I definitely remember reading about it. Okay, so I know it's like lead, cadmium, mercury, chromium, things like that, that are the contaminants.
Like metal.
Yeah, for the most part. And like those don't get easily degraded and they are like carcinogenic as well.
Yeah, I was gonna kind of go off that, like the heavy metals and stuff that you find in e-waste, like if that gets into the water supply, or the food supply at all, that stuff that's like pretty much impossible to like remove from the bloodstream, so it can cause like lung defects and things like that.
Neither of them. Does someone have an answer for that?
I mean, scientists are looking into it, but currently.
I don't think so. Yeah.
We're trying to find more renewable ways, but things like pretty much every device nowadays uses lithium ion batteries, so lithium is like a major hazardous material, and it's really dangerous to do. But currently, lithium like, well, rely on it. We're working on a solution, but who knows?
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of like funded research going on right now, but that can take a while to actually get implemented. So yeah, it's kind of unfortunate because like we do have the research, but it's just like not quite implemented yet, I don't think.
I know one thing which like we have to wait for the research, but in terms of trying to recycle materials, there's just like one website that it reminds me of, it's like a jeweler that will recycle the materials, turn it back into gold or platinum and things. So instead of buying, for example, a wedding ring, a brand new one, you can get one from a conscious place that's been recycled from electronic materials.
Oh, yeah, I think that would be really cool. I mean, to like have a phone that's completely like made of recycled products, like maybe besides like the chip, but yeah, I mean, that would be really cool to see.
I just remember there are some scientists working on an iron battery as opposed to lithium ion battery, which would be the easier to dispose of. Downside of that is your phone would weigh like 10 pounds.
Back to the 90s. Is it the 90s? I don't even know.
Yeah, Brandon.
Yeah, so let's say my phone breaks and I have to get a new one. What should I do with the old phone if it's like completely dead? To be sustainable?
Completely dead. I think okay. For 1 second, put your hand down if you don't have an answer to this question. Okay, perfect.
I know options for definitely computers, and pretty sure they'll take some as well. Is like this an Apple buyback?
I'm gonna walk over you because I don't think they can hear you.
I know Microsoft will also buy back certain computers. I think the downside is they will take them over 15 years or 10 years. But if you take it to a reputable recycling plant for that, and then Best Buy can take it. Is that your phone? Right, yeah, mine was Best Buy. Okay.
On the Apple thing, they'll also take non-Apple products. Like I had a pair of like electronic headphones that just like decided to no longer exist within our plane of reality. So I took them to Apple. I was like, these are not your brand, but like, will you take them? And they were like, I mean, sure. And they were like, we'll take it to a recycling facility and see what we can do with it. So they won't like refuse you if you have like an off-brand version of AirPods. As long as it's electronic, they'll take it.
Yes. Hold on, I put one side of them.
Best Buy will also take like any old wired phone cases, Kindle, laptop cases, like anything to do with like an electronic, they will take it. They also take like old, like mini fans. If you see something with big fans, like in your dorm room, has a little fan, and it was great. Take it to Best Buy, and small things like that, like any kind of electronic thing. Okay.
Thank you so much to everyone that answered the question. Do you just want to shout or?
Yeah, you can also, depending on the state of whatever device is broken, you can take it apart and sell these different parts online to people who either know how to repair some of these things or want certain parts, because a lot of people are building computers nowadays. And then the few certain parts that are beyond repair, I would guess you can
I heavily advocate for that because my dad does it and he has a lot of fun doing it. So there are definitely people to buy your individual parts. Does anybody else have any other questions or thoughts or comments? Yeah, do you need the mic?
How do you like detoxify stuff? Like they were like those are the recycling plants to do.
I don't know specifically, but I don't really know if there's a way to like detoxify it.
Or like what is the process of recycling?
I actually don't know. Do you guys?
No, I don't know, but depending on what committee you're in, you can make a presentation. I think that's just like really interesting to like for general knowledge and just seeing if there even is a possible solution to the problem. So while we don't necessarily know that information, I think it would really be good to follow up on that question. Continue some research. Yeah.
So I actually have a answer.
Oh, she has an answer. Can you hear her?
Yes, I can. I don't know the exact answer, but I'm just answering something kind of similar to what they do with a nuclear energy plant. Is that the waste actually doesn't get recycled, it ends up getting stored in places where it's contaminant and it's basically, they just put all the dangerous hazards in one place, so it'd probably just be that we separate it and put it there. And it wouldn't really get recycled.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yeah. Nice. Okay.
Scratch that for the record.
Yeah. She's still talking, guys. Yeah. Definitely. Potential source of contamination right there and something to be mindful of. Yeah.
So like kind of answer the question about how they recycled it, going back to the jewelry company that I know of, they specifically, like, they're based in LA and they refine the metals and separate them by their alloys and everything. And they do that by UPA standards to try to keep it out of the water supply, because once it gets in there, it just accumulates and you can never get it out. But then they're able to separate it and turn it into gold, silver, platinum, and those kind of things for jewelry. So I do know, like, to kind of answer your question with what you're asking, they will refine some things, but obviously that's just one company that I know of.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah.
Is there any sort of like clean way that people get rid of waste, like kind of like get rid of our daily we wasted stuff that we eat and other stuff.
Yeah.
Mindfuls?
That's a good question. I think it starts with the definition of like get rid of, because as you know, most things don't really are like gotten rid of. I don't know. So in terms of like waste, hi Dad. In terms of like waste and e-waste, I don't think besides like recycling and reusing and like keeping those parts in the system, that like putting it somewhere to sit and not be used is like a next step for anything. I think that's just where they end up. Wherever they end up is like the end of their life cycle. It's not like a next step of like a good way to like have something sitting / dumped somewhere. Anyone else? Yeah.
So when this type of technology actually extracts the, so to get rid of mercury, for that lighting, and for the bigger ones, the majority plastic, for the metals, they actually melt down the iron, the gold, and some of the other like soldering materials used in this circuit board, and that's just recycled. So the whole part of the computer of the circuit board actually does get recycled.
Thank you. Yeah, Brandon.
Yeah, I have another question. I'm not super into like consumer solutions for problems like this, but as a buyer of technology on occasion, are there any companies that are like particularly good about sustainability that we know of?
So we had one person mention a jewelry company, not necessarily like electronics, but they reuse parts of electronics, right? And I'll hand it the mic to them.
So the jewelry company that I know about is called Buy You with Love, and I have like the website pulled up on my phone. But they partnered with Dell and Microsoft as well, I believe. And so basically they just recycle all motherboards, and like systems like that related to computers. And they refine anything and all of the alloys and all of the metal, and then they separate it apart and turn it into like gold, platinum, and silver. And so it's restored back to its natural state. And in that aspect, you know, you're not gonna be mining for new gold or silver. It's the same exact thing. So you're not harming the environment through mining, and then you're also able to recycle the computers. But that's the only company I know about. So, yeah.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Does anyone else have any companies like that we know? Yeah.
It's more like a comment and a question, but I feel like it's hard for companies like Apple and Android are like taking the parts to make things more stable and like even the more limited everything like Apple like that. You know what I mean? Like, if you want to connect with anything, I think something like that Apple is like you don't have to have like you know, you need to
Yeah, absolutely. I think these companies like, this is like a mini monopoly of like which companies are like considered the big main ones that everyone uses, like you mentioned Apple. And so these companies that Brandon wants to know about, not much of us know about because they don't have as much funding sources or they're just pushed out by the other companies in advance. But with that note, does anyone happen to know any companies? Yeah, which brings home the point of the intentional nature of like marketing and capitalism and pushing out the companies that are more innovative and sustainable. But if anyone does find any resources, any cool things to share, you can send them in the group me. I'll definitely read about them. I don't know about everyone else, but I'll take a look at them. Okay, any other questions? All right, well, thank you so much. Let's give a big round of applause for Simran. If anyone's interested in joining Women in Information and Computer Science, you can come up and talk to Simran about it, and we will have all the information in the recap email. All right, bye everyone. Have a good rest of your day.
Hey to everyone on Zoom who just saw that.
Wait, did you want us to make a grouping for you guys? Did you want us to make